That was Brazil's president speaking boldly about Trump and what BRICS is able to do. And that created panic in the air. That's because Trump and the United States may now lose money, power, and control. It started with a closed-door BRICS summit in Brazil. 10 nations, some enemies, some allies, sat together plotting America's replacement. Not with bombs, but with a new system. One that makes the US dollar irrelevant. One that makes American dominance look outdated. And Trump? He freaked out. Any country siding with BRICS will face 10% tariffs. He screamed into the internet like a man watching his empire crumble in real time. But the world didn't blink. Brazil called him an emperor. China called it coercion. South Africa mocked his vengeance. And in the shadows, something historic snapped. The global economy began shifting, for real. This is the beginning of America's economic isolation. A silent rebellion, a financial coup, a global rewiring. Trump thought he could bully BRICS with tariffs. Instead, he may have triggered the exact event he feared most: a coordinated global exit from US control. So, what just happened? And how did Trump get played and handled? In this video, let's find out. Donald Trump has always viewed tariffs as a weapon, a blunt force tool to force countries into submission. To him, tariffs weren't just policy. They were leverage, a way to shout louder on the world stage. In fact, he once famously said, "Tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary." But in 2025, that word has turned into a curse, because the weapon is no longer scaring the target. It's uniting it. And worse for Trump, economic indicators are showing signs that this strategy is not just failing. It's triggering the exact opposite effect. This was manifested when Trump could no longer hide the panic. Therefore, he issued a 10% tariff threat in response to the BRICS summit in Rio. It was meant to be a warning shot. If any country sides with the BRICS bloc or supports its anti-American stance, they will pay, literally. Trump believed this threat would isolate BRICS, intimidate potential supporters, and slow down the group's economic cohesion. But reality told a different story. BRICS countries didn't flinch. They dug in deeper. Why? Because they no longer fear being shut out of US trade. They are building their own economic ecosystem. And the numbers reveal the entire story. According to IMF and WTO data, intra-BRICS trade surged 40% between 2021 and 2024, reaching $740 billion. This isn't accidental. It's a direct reaction to Western tariffs and sanctions, especially those championed by Trump during his first and second terms. When you block a country from one market, it naturally looks for new ones. And BRICS has now matured into a self-sustaining trade bloc, where member countries are increasingly buying from each other instead of relying on US or European supply chains. But let's take a closer look at how this works in practice. See the example of Russia, a country suffocating under over 20,000 Western sanctions, primarily from the US and the EU. Those sanctions forced Moscow to ditch the dollar and shift to alternative currencies. By July 2024, 53% of Russia's foreign transactions were conducted in Chinese yuan, a staggering increase from just a few years ago. That's not a symbolic shift, it's a structural one. The Chinese yuan is replacing the dollar in Russia's trade ecosystem. And once those systems, like payment processors, bilateral agreements, and currency reserves, are built, they don't get reversed. They become permanent infrastructure in a new financial world. Then there is India, a country that was once seen as a possible US counterbalance to China. But US pressure over buying Russian oil pushed India to lean toward BRICS partners instead. In 2025, India sourced 43% of its oil imports from Russia, more than Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE combined. That's more than just market preference. It's a strategic pivot, and it's not just the oil, it's the currency. These deals are increasingly settled in rupees, rubles, or yuan, bypassing the dollar entirely. Washington's obsession with punishing countries over trade has ironically caused them to innovate and move on. Then we have Brazil, once a proud battleground for American auto giants like Ford. Today those factories have new masters. China's BYD, one of the world's largest EV makers, has taken over Ford's abandoned plant in Brazil and is scaling up production to feed Latin American markets. In South Africa, it's the same story. Chinese car brands like BYD, Chery, and SAIC now dominate dealership floors, with at least 27 Chinese models on sale. Many of them cheaper and more technologically advanced than their US or EU counterparts. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, and current affairs impacting your lives. Trump's strategy to pressure the world into aligning with US policies using tariffs is creating fertile ground for BRICS self-reliance. Countries aren't just resisting the US. They are actively restructuring their trade models to cut Washington out of the equation altogether. And here's the twist that makes this moment historic. Trump didn't just fail to intimidate BRICS. He accelerated their cooperation. The very policy meant to isolate BRICS is now uniting them under a shared cause: freedom from US economic control. This is the essence of the backlash. America's economic power, especially under Trump, has become synonymous with threats and punishment, not partnership. And that image is turning even former allies into skeptics, forcing them to explore alternatives, even if those alternatives involve China or Russia. And the more Trump threatens, the more BRICS solidifies as a political, economic, and psychological counterweight. The 2025 BRICS summit wasn't just a diplomatic gathering, it was a geopolitical milestone. From its original 5, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the bloc has now expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the UAE. Partner nations like Vietnam, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Nigeria are lining up behind it. The math is staggering. BRICS Plus now accounts for 56% of the world's population and 44% of global GDP. This is not some symbolic alliance. It is an alternative power structure, a global South-led response to decades of Western dominance. The BRICS Rio Declaration openly challenged the U.S. position on trade tariffs and military intervention. Though Trump wasn't named directly, the targets were obvious. The statement condemned unilateral sanctions, expressed concern over supply chain disruptions, and blasted tariff coercion as a violation of WTO norms. Even more tellingly, BRICS denounced the June 2025 U.S.-Israel military strikes on Iran. In response to what the group labeled a violation of international law, BRICS accused the U.S. of provoking instability while masquerading under the banner of peace. The key word from this summit? Sovereignty. The message was clear. BRICS will no longer tolerate being dictated to by a Washington-centric order. You see, Trump's tariffs, intended to punish disobedience, have done the opposite. They have pushed dozens of nations into BRICS orbit, united not by ideology, but by shared resistance. And all of them are now planning to hit Trump where it hurts him the most. And one of Trump's deepest fears has always been the end of dollar dominance. He once said, "I hate when countries go off the dollar. It's like losing the Revolutionary War." That fear now seems well-founded. Across BRICS Plus, governments are creating systems that bypass the dollar entirely. Central banks are testing cross-border payment systems using national currencies. Bilateral trade agreements are being settled in yuan, rubles, rupees, and dirhams. And China's digital yuan is gaining traction. The most alarming development for Washington? This trend is being institutionalized. In 2024, BRICS launched a working group to develop an integrated financial settlement platform. By mid-2025, the project had reached the pilot stage in at least 5 member states. Russia and Iran already conduct most of their trade in non-dollar currencies. The UAE and Egypt have signaled readiness to join. Even Brazil's President Lula took a bold stance. Nobody has determined that the dollar is the currency standard. We are sovereign. We choose our tools. You see, for the first time in decades, a powerful bloc has both the political will and economic mass to create a multipolar currency system. And Trump's belligerence is only speeding up that shift. Interestingly, the greatest miscalculation in Trump's tariff war was underestimating the global South. Once seen as marginal players, countries like Vietnam, Nigeria, and Kazakhstan are now playing central roles in the BRICS ecosystem. They are leveraging their strategic locations, raw material wealth, and growing markets to anchor a new economic geography. In Rio, Kazakh and Brazilian officials signed deals on aircraft maintenance, manufacturing, and raw materials. Nigeria, now a BRICS Plus partner, is pushing for more trade denominated in Naira and exploring yuan-based oil settlements. Vietnam's inclusion marks another defeat for U.S. strategy. Despite years of Washington courting Hanoi to contain Beijing, Vietnam has chosen non-alignment through BRICS. This alignment is more than symbolic. It's a practical rebellion against U.S. overreach, military, economic, and cultural. And it's fueled by a sense of long-overdue justice. Trump's threats have unintentionally triggered a psychological shift, the perception that you can stand up to the U.S. and survive. BRICS is no longer a passive bloc of emerging nations. It is a political statement, a declaration that the age of unilateralism is dying. The signs are visible now. Since Trump's new tariff threat, the BRICS intra-trade index jumped by 8% in a single month. The yuan-ruble trade volume increased by 12%. Oil benchmarks in non-dollar terms have hit record highs. U.S. consumer prices have ticked upward due to retaliatory tariffs. Foreign direct investment into BRICS nations has surged, up 17% in Q2 2025. Meanwhile, U.S. markets are jittery. Multinationals fear retaliatory tariffs. Supply chains are rerouting through neutral hubs. American exporters are facing tighter margins as foreign governments pivot to BRICS-aligned alternatives. If these trends continue, Trump's tariffs could turn into a self-inflicted wound, eroding American economic influence, empowering rivals, and undermining the very supremacy he seeks to protect. What do you think? Is Trump helping BRICS achieve global supremacy at a faster rate? What happens when 56% of the world's population agrees the dollar should die? In the comment section below, share your thoughts on whether this is the moment future historians will call the fall of the American empire. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, changing world order, and current affairs. Things you need to stay informed. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.